the 2121st year of the Wasteland era, human civilization was almost completely destroyed by pollution after a nuclear war and has not yet recovered. People survived in the wastelands, creating settlements for the sake of safety. But even if they managed to gain a foothold, they could not regain their former dominance on the planet. For an ordinary person to go outside the settlement meant almost certain death. The world has completely changed under the influence of nuclear energy. Even the tiny insects turned into nuclear beasts. Now there was only the law of survival of the fittest. To live, you had to become stronger and more ruthless than mutants, although they were far from the most terrible in this world. The guy thought he was in the right place and said something exciting was going to happen tonight. He saw a man arriving in a car, tied him up, gagged him, and locked him in his car. Then he went to the door of the building and opened it. The woman held a knife to his throat and asked if he was lost, as she hadn't seen him before. The girls nearby said it was private property and one more step and he would be expelled. The guy told them to open their eyes and showed them something. The woman changed her tone and called him the guest of honor. He replied that he had come to have fun and not to spoil the fun. The girl greeted him at the Eden of the wasteland and invited him inside. The doors opened, he entered, and they closed. Eden was an underground club that had recently become popular. His guests were local hegemons and top-level nobles. They were attracted by a special performance and service. On stage, the girl announced the beginning of casting, where only money mattered. She removed the covers from the cubes that contained the girls. She presented one of the products, emphasizing the age and quality, and encouraged guests to spend money. A special favor was the illegal sale of slaves, mostly young girls. Because of the small surviving population, human trafficking was considered a serious crime, so transactions were conducted secretly. But the true horror of Eden went beyond that. One of the girls asked the guy why he was alone and if he was interested in the product. He replied that he was bored with second-rate things and needed something more interesting. The girl said that to choose the highest class, you need to become an honorary member of the community. The guy showed the bracelet and asked if it was enough. The girl acknowledged his status and led him to a private room. There was a beautiful young girl named Xiaomei who was 18 years old. The girl presented it as a top-quality product and left. The guy noted that this time the product is really the highest. Xiaomei said that she was his exclusive pet and he could do whatever he wanted with her. She tried to seduce him, hugged him, and threw him on the bed, but he remained calm. As she continued, he suddenly pushed her away and took out a whip. He hit her, and she screamed. The guy said that she wouldn't die from a single blow because her body is strong as long as her head is intact. He called her a beastman. Xiaomei was shocked and asked how he knew. He replied that it was completely impossible to disguise yourself well at 0 level. The smell and body temperature give away. She tried to approach again, but her hands turned into claws. He slapped her across the face with the whip and sent her flying. After that, Xiaomei turned into a giant beast and demanded to know who he was. The guy replied that he was a common scavenger, performing tasks to exterminate them. He suggested that she call her companions to save him some time. Xiaomei made a strange sound, thinking that she couldn't do it alone. A few seconds later, the other women entered the room. They mockingly asked what was wrong and said they would help. Xiaomei had warned them that he was a scavenger. The girls began to turn into unidentified animals and said that weapons were useless against him. They said the old scavengers couldn't do anything, and this one looks inexperienced. They decided to act together, confident that even a high-level scavenger wouldn't be able to resist. They attacked him and shouted for him to die. The guy replied that it would only make it easier for him if they attacked together. The guy used an unusual force and electrocuted all the women around. One of them asked in shock if he could use abilities and suggested that he was not an ordinary scavenger, but a new person, reproaching herself for being careless. The guy replied that he did not use his ability, but the object. He said that he spent the lightning amulet, but he immediately killed 5 beastmen, and the reward was decent. The man outside the door heard what was happening and realized that people were being abducted, lured, and devoured here. He shouted about it, and the men started running away in a panic. According to intelligence, there were 5 beasts hiding in this place. Not only did they capture human girls and perform obscene services, but they also secretly ate those who came for entertainment. Beastmen evolved more strongly than nuclear beasts. They were able to mimic people and had the same intelligence. That was why nuclear beasts with intelligence and intentions were extremely dangerous. But this time, they were all destroyed. The guy introduced himself. His name is Liu Xing. He is a scavenger. He came here on an errand to destroy the beastmen. Compared to the normal quest pay, The reward for these 5 nuclear creatures was more generous. Scavengers are a special profession. They accept tasks and receive rewards, directly reporting to the Scavenger Guild, which solves various problems. This is possible because most scavengers are new humans whose abilities have been awakened by nuclear energy. Just as animals turned into nuclear beasts and beastmen, so some humans gained gifts. Their physical fitness improved and various abilities were awakened, for which they were called new people. Loshing pointed out that although he was a new person, the power used earlier belonged to the item, not his own ability. His own ability may seem unusual. He was an orphan who had to join various organizations to survive. Beatings and starvation were his usual companions. When he met his savior, scavenger team leader Feng Xiaoyu, his fate changed. After learning that he had the body of a new person, the commander invited him to join the Twin Cheetahs team she founded. Since then, his goal has been to survive the apocalypse and become a strong scavenger. In the Doomsday City-state of Qingdao, he had trained hard and reached the middle S rank. However, the gap between him in the A and S rank masters with powerful abilities and high-end equipment was still large. However, he found another way to surpass them. With out-of-this-world weapons, he could defeat several new people at once. The source of this weapon was closely related to its special ability. After returning home, Lu Xing opened the locked door, lay down on the emerald bed, closed his eyes, and fell asleep. His soul was moving to another world. This was his awakened ability. That world was completely different from the original one. It was the realm of striving for immortality. There were many demons and monsters living there. The atmosphere was terrifying and no less dangerous than the apocalypse. But unlike his world, it was possible to cultivate immortality there. The girl turned to him, calling him head, and asked if he was awake. Lu Xing replied that the task was completed. He had collected a lot of materials, which should be enough to activate many of the temple's functional modules. Lu Xing thought that he had been sleeping in the wasteland a moment ago, and now he opened his eyes in a completely different environment. Every move here seemed incredible, but to understand the reason, you need to go back a few months. That day, he fell asleep at home, but when he opened his eyes, he found that he was in another world. At first, he thought it was a dream, but the sharp stench of corpses was too real to make him feel sick. What was even more strange was that his scavenger bracelet ended up with him and kept working. Then he saw floating ancient houses and strange thorns. It was like the cultivation world from the old novels. But unlike the books, this world was much more terrifying and strange. As he pondered, a pain flashed in his head, and memories of the owner of this body began to come back to him. The spiritual energy in the world had long since dried up, replaced by an evil energy that could drive people crazy. Demons and monsters, driven by this energy, attack people, leaving rivers of blood. The cultivation methods of those who tried to maintain transcendence were even more terrifying. The owner of the body was a person from the Immortal Seeker clan and a disciple of the Ascension Gate sect. Like the rest of the students, he dug up treasures every day. This was his only value and the only way to survive. They were ordinary people, unable to resist cultivators and forced to submit. The head of the Ascension Gate sect was considered a righteous protector of the earth, but in reality, he treated the disciples like cattle, using them for his own development. Under his sorcery, students extracted souls from themselves for the sake of his cultivation. He called it a blessing. Those with a low predisposition were used as alchemy consumables, creating golden ascension pills from their flesh and blood. Many died in the sacrifices, their bodies thrown into the wilderness. Talking about justice was just a cover. Lu Xing realized that he had taken the place of someone else's soul. The pain increased, and new memories emerged. The voice of the body owner's grandfather rang out. He said that the world used to be filled with masters who could ascend to the heavens and live as long as the heavens and earth. Mahayana devotees were innumerable. Even the demons were eager to embark on a righteous path. The great gods and demons gathered in the Heaven and Earth sect, where they created an unsurpassed technique for the joint cultivation of immortals and demons. The world was calm, but the spiritual energy suddenly disappeared. The heavens and earth were torn apart, and the heavenly tribulation arrived. High-level masters died, their meridians flipped over. The few survivors escaped. In order to preserve the sect, the head of that time used a forbidden technique. It protected the Valley of Immortality aspiration, but the sect was buried deep underground for tens of thousands of years. It was predicted that one day there would be a person who would revive her spiritual roots. However, after the spiritual energy disappeared, evil energy spread out. Methods of improvement and guidance have almost disappeared. All that remained was a group of so-called cultivators who had actually become demons that used the energy of evil and devoured the souls and blood of mortals. The Body Owner clan was the last branch of the Heaven and Earth sect. My grandfather asked me to awaken her and not let the demons continue to bring disaster. Lu Ying realized that this world was no less cruel than the apocalypse. Grandfather left instructions. The ruins of the sect are underground. You need to follow the indicated direction, take a silver jade bracelet, create a sound from 1 long and 2 short knocks 3 times, and cast a spell to open the entrance. While exploring the area, Lu Xing realized that the place with a pile of corpses where he woke up most fit the description. The scavenger's bracelet suddenly registered a powerful nuclear energy reaction deep underground. He was surprised that the bracelet worked here too. The silver jade bracelet also started to react. Pointing at the bottom of the well, he began to descend, walking tens of thousands of steps. The malicious Kui made movement difficult. Finally, he reached the source of the signal, a dark hole. A huge skeleton came out. Lu Xing remembered the instructions and created the right rhythm of knocks, repeating it 3 times, then chanted a spell. The skeleton split into many small pieces, flashed blue fire, and soon a portal opened. Lu Xing realized that the monster was the guardian of the sect entrance, and the silver jade bracelet was the key. Lu Xing entered the portal and found himself in a completely different world. He thought that even though he had read cultivation novels before, the reality was far more shocking than he could have imagined. Suddenly, the silver jade bracelet began to vibrate. Lu Xing wondered what was going on, and the next moment, a flying little girl appeared in front of him. She said that the sect head had finally arrived, that the little celestial had waited for him, and that the Heaven and Earth sect was saved. Lu Xing was surprised at how many secrets the bracelet was hiding and asked why she was calling him the head of the sect. The girl replied that the situation in the past was an emergency, so he did not know all the details. He realized that what he was looking at was a sealed part of the little celestial's spiritual consciousness. The core of the sect, the Valley of Striving for Immortality, was sealed, and the main soul of the Celestialess, along with the rest of the sect members, was inside. Now that he had arrived, a part of her consciousness was released through the silver jade bracelet. In the golden age of cultivation, the sect head created a method of joint practice for the righteous and the demons, so that they could cultivate together. At the end of the golden age, evil spirits were rampant everywhere. They killed countless demonic beasts and cultivators who lost control and went into a frenzy. The survival of mortals was at stake, and ordinary cultivators couldn't resist. At the critical moment, everything depended on the sect head. According to the little celestial, he changed the course of events in 2 steps. The first step is the light of the righteous path, which destroyed most of the evil demons. The second step is to use demons against demons to clean up the remnants of evil. With these 2 actions, he almost destroyed the first wave of enemies. However, the number of evil energy corrupted demons, cultivators, and beasts was endless. It was impossible to kill them all. As a result, the sect leader resorted to the last resort, sealed the Valley of Aspiration for Immortality. He sacrificed his own soul and blood to activate the defensive field. The core of the valley was sealed underground, and the souls of the disciples fell into a deep sleep. It left a glimmer of hope for the future sect member. The body owner's ancestor was on a mission and couldn't return in time. It was to him that the head gave instruction. Now, after awakening the little celestial, Lu Xing became the head of the sect. His task is to gather spiritual energy and revive the sect. Only then would the Valley of Striving for Immortality open up, and he would be able to embark on the path of immortal and demonic cultivation, enhancing his strength. Lu Xing realized that it was impossible to gather spiritual energy in the world where it had disappeared, but the scavenger's bracelet discovered nuclear energy in the ruins of the sect. This led him to believe that nuclear and spiritual energy were interchangeable. If you bring nuclear power from the wasteland world here, you can awaken the sect. The best source is nuclear crystals formed in the bodies of nuclear beasts after heavy contamination. He wondered how to get back. The girl asked what had happened. He replied that he was tired and hadn't slept for a long time and asked for a place to rest. She agreed and promised to protect his sleep. Relaxed for the first time since arriving, he fell asleep. When Lu Xing woke up, he was back in his wasteland world, and the silver jade bracelet was still on him. He made 2 conclusions. First, he can move between worlds in a dream. Second, he can transfer objects that he touches. Since both bracelets had moved, it meant that he might be able to transfer the nuclear crystals to the cultivation world as well. Lu Xing's guess was soon confirmed. He held up a nuclear crystal and asked if this thing could be used. The girl was surprised and said that the spiritual energy inside was comparable in strength to a spiritual stone. Lu Xing realized that everything he touched in his sleep was transported with him to the cultivation world, and the nuclear crystals could actually provide the energy needed to revive the sect. The girl said that this amount of energy is enough to activate the most important divine artifact, the rebirth tripod. Lu Xing asked what it was used for. The girl cast a spell, and then the tripod of life began to move. She explained that although the artifact had been sealed for 1,000 years, it could be activated with spiritual energy. In the past, the sect had sealed the souls of disciples in eternal, spiritual candles. When the tripod creates new physical bodies, the disciples can be resurrected by placing their souls inside. The disciples were all very capable, and with their help, the revival of the sect under Lu Xing's leadership would be possible. Lu Xing suggested activating the artifact immediately. The girl replied that the current energy is only enough to create one body, and which disciple will be resurrected depends on the luck of the head. Lu Xing compared it to drawing a surprise and decided to collect more nuclear crystals to make 10 draws. The girl didn't understand the comparison, but she reminded him of something important. After a time equal to burning a stick of incense, the follower's body was almost formed. The girl warned me to be careful. A girl appeared and asked who he was and why he wasn't afraid of her true samadhi fire. When she saw the silver jade bracelet, she was surprised. The girl told her to pay her respects to the young sect leader. Lu Xing welcomed her back. The girl thought that the former sect head had lost cultivation and his soul had left his body. She thought that Lu Xing might be his reincarnation since she used the bracelet and opened the rebirth tripod, but decided to check it out first. She asked why she had been woken up. Lu Xing replied that it was to revive the sect and restore its glory. The girl refused to participate. The girl got angry and threatened to turn her back to nothing for disrespect. The girl replied that she had experienced the golden age of cultivation and did not intend to submit to anyone. Her fate belonged only to her. At that moment, Lu Xing electrocuted her. The girl recognized this as Soul Catcher's yin-yang curse and asked when he had mastered it. Lu Xing replied that he just guessed. When he entered the rebirth hall, the bracelet started to resonate, and he saw many sealed souls, each of which was connected to the bracelet, so he understood their origin. The girl explained that it was a secret demonic art that could only seal the souls of demons, monsters, and spirits. All of the sealed followers were either demons or monsters, and there were many overlords who were feared in their territories. The only one they truly feared was the head of the sect. Therefore, Lu Xing should be careful. Lu Xing realized that if the demons were afraid of the head, then he had a trump card to control them, and that trump card was a silver jade bracelet that could connect and resonate with their souls. He saw the chain from one spiritual candle being transferred to a new body, which confirmed his guess. When he pulled the link, the bracelet triggered Soul Catcher's yin-yang curse. The girl called herself Fire Crow. Originally, she was a fiery spirit created by the Celestial with the help of the true fire of Samadhi. After hundreds of years of cultivation, she regained her human form and was accepted into the sect by the previous head. The girl said that she was just a spirit-turned-monster and shouldn't be arrogant. Lu Xing threatened to send her to recycle if she took over the body and did nothing, because it was a pity to waste nuclear crystals. Fire Crow hurriedly stated that she had crafted high-grade divine tools and talismans before. Holy items such as the demon-suppressing Thunder Talisman and the great sword North Star were sealed together with her. The girl questioned the value of this. Lu Xing was about to bid her farewell, but she promised that with enough spiritual energy, she would be able to create even more talismans, pills, and magic treasures, and help him surpass everyone else. Lu Xing agreed to give her a chance. In the present tense, he held out a bag of crystals and asked Fire Crow if the spiritual energy from the nuclear crystals was enough. The girl screamed that the head was amazing. In a realm inhabited only by evil spirits, he managed to find a jewel filled with spiritual energy. Inwardly, she thought that the new sect head was quite capable, even though the crystal was slightly different from the spirit stone. She was glad that she finally had the opportunity to process jewelry and decided to start right away. The girl used the precious secret of fire melting with crystals. She explained that since the crystal and spirit stone are similar raw materials, it can be processed into a random gem. As a result, the sky talisman of the Blue Shadow Falcon appeared. Lu Xing pointed out that the name should have a magical power related to the abilities of birds. He said it was not bad, but nothing out of the ordinary, and asked how to get a better treasure. The girl replied that it was necessary to increase the amount of spiritual energy expended and applied hyper-amplification of the precious secret of fire melting. This time it turned out to be a seed. Lu Xing noticed that it looked unusual and asked what kind of plant it was. The flying girl said that it was similar to a fruit she had tasted before and suggested that it was a wicker celestial samsara whose ripe fruit tasted very good. The girl admitted that although she was learning to become a celestial, she had not eaten for 2 days. Her cultivation hasn't fully recovered yet, and refining jewels consumes a lot of spiritual strength. Lu Xing picked her up and told her that she was too hungry to stand on her feet, so he would take her to rest. The flying girl assured that in a few hours she will recover. Lu Xing thought about the problem of hunger. He had already done an experiment and found out that food couldn't be transferred to this world. According to the rules, substances containing biological characteristics cannot be moved back and forth. The flying girl said that there are still a lot of nuclear crystals, but if you don't solve the nutrition issue, you won't be able to resurrect the other students. Lu Xing guessed that with a large number of students, the problem could be solved. The girl didn't quite understand, but she agreed. Suddenly, the rebirth tripod began to shake violently. The girl said that this time 2 students were resurrected at once, and it looks like they are fighting. Lu Xing cast Soul Catcher's yin-yang curse and ordered them to stop. The girl woke up and was outraged by the noise. Then she recognized Lu Xing. Lu Xing and the girl were wondering who these 2 people were. The girl explained that they were the famous dragon sisters, Senior Kang Mingsha and Junior Kang Liuli. They were the most incompatible existences in the sect, and no one expected them to resurrect together. She suggested that they arrange another fight to determine the winner. Her sisters had told her to go to hell. The flying girl urged them to stop swearing and thank the sect head for the resurrection. Kang Liuli said that the young head is extraordinary. She can sense a strong spiritual energy in his body, but she feels that he hasn't studied or practiced Taoism. She stated that she was skilled in Taoism and magic and could help him cultivate by mastering the art of pear cultivation. Kang Mingsha retorted that the head didn't need her teaching. Before joining the sect, she was the top assassin in the Underworld Lord sect and is easily proficient in mystical spells. Therefore, it is she who should teach the chapter, and she also knows pear cultivation. The girl suggested that they do it all together, otherwise they will have to fight, and the winner will become a teacher. Her sisters had told her to go to hell again. The flying girl noticed that good and evil are always rewarded. Lu Xing stopped the argument and said that the main thing right now was to solve the food problem. Whoever tells you how to make a seed bear fruit will teach you how to grow it. Kang Mingsha recognized the seed as a wicker heavenly samsara and said that it was an extremely rare treasure. According to legend, it should be planted in the ground where there were countless corpses with a vicious spirit. It will absorb everything from this earth and sprout. Kang Liuli added that after sprouting, the tree would need a lot of spiritual energy to grow, and both evil and spiritual energy to exist. Therefore, it is extremely rare. She had heard that eating its fruits could not only speed up one's cultivation, but also grant one supernatural powers. Lu Xing thought it was an amazing plant. Obtaining spiritual energy is difficult, so he must collect nuclear crystals. But the earth, with the energy of evil, will have to look elsewhere. According to the memories of the owner of the body, that place is teeming with various evil spirits, which he has not yet encountered. Before collecting the earth, he asked the little celestial to put all 3 of them to rest, and he decided to return to his world. To collect more nuclear crystals for processing into jewelry, you need to ensure that you can safely return after collecting the earth. Lu Xing fell asleep and woke up in a different world. He noticed a message from the commander. It said, "Little rascal, why don't you call me back? Come quickly, I have something good for you." Lu Xing came to the scavenger building. He thought that the commander had called him many times. He was surprised and worried about what might have happened. The door recognized his face, and suddenly things rained down on him. Lu Xing exclaimed the commander, trying to understand what was going on. Commander Fang Xiaoyu was lying on the sofa. Garbage was strewn all around. She was surprised that Lu Xing was here. She asked him what he was doing here. Lu Xing asked if he had a task to complete. Fang Xiaoyu remembered that she had recently received a large order. She said that she was always busy, so she gave him the opportunity to practice. She added that the Scavenger Guild's 2-star quest paid well. The reward will be divided 70 to 30. Luxing thanked her for her trust and concern, but he was worried that there was no one else in the team, and it was hard to complete a task of this level alone. Feng Xiaoyu reassured him. She said that she was the strongest S-ranked team member and could handle it. He only needs to agree. Luxing said that he wanted to upgrade the battle class. Feng Xiaoyu approved of the decision and told him to go do the task. He asked if she would sponsor the equipment. Feng Xiaoyu refused and explained that her new strength was a superhuman physique, no equipment needed. Luxing remembered that the Scavenger Guild's monthly salary was high, so he offered some equipment. Feng Xiaoyu laughed and said that she spends more money on real games and consoles than on equipment. Luxing thought that the commander was very dependent on the internet and games. She spends money on games without stopping, so there is no money for equipment. I'll have to do it myself. He thought back to his childhood. His parents died of starvation when he was a child. He was lucky to survive picking up trash. Later, he was captured by the Rusty Pestilence gang, who invaded the territory of part of the Rainbow. He continued to ponder how lucky he was that the giant nuclear beast hadn't noticed him. It was too small and slipped between the beast's teeth. Later, it continued to survive, relying on its survivability. He thought it would go on like this forever until he encountered the Hayplas monster. Monster Dung is an attack by a group of nuclear beasts that have gone berserk for unknown reasons. Ordinary people narrowly escape death in such a stream. When Luxing fell, he thought that the story of his coolness might end there. But at that moment, the commander appeared. She was in a hurry to get home and killed all the nuclear creatures in one hit. She completed the 8-star mission in a split second and saved his life. Then she accepted him into the team. I found out that he was new and made him the only member of the team. Luxing remembered that the mission stated the location, the Nuclear Beast Research Institute. At the institute, he was met by the director, Dr. Shu. He said he was waiting for a scavenger. Shu introduced himself and asked Luxing to sit down and explain more about the mission. Dr. Shu said that the institute is an institution that takes care of others. Over the 5 years of its existence, hundreds of beastmen have been sheltered and rescued. The institute became their home. People think beastmen are dangerous, but Shu is sure that it's a matter of prejudice. Beastmen want to integrate into human society and have a safe place to live. The Institute researches beastmen to help get rid of their genes and transform them completely into humans. The Institute was developing, but faced a big problem. It looks like a nuclear beast has taken up residence in the Institute, so they hired a scavenger to eliminate the threat. Suddenly, there was a loud crash. Shu said that the beast is here again. Luxing decided to check for himself and told the others to stay inside and not come out. He saw a giant snake. According to the mission description, there was only one beast, but this Titan python is 10 times larger than usual and very poisonous. Luxing realized that this was too dangerous for a 2-star mission. He thought the commander had set him up. Luxing carefully observed the giant snake and thought that its scales were too thick, and any shooting would only make him angry. Suddenly, the snake let out a shrill cry, and he thought that such sounds were extremely rare for snakes to make. He realized that he needed to lure him out of hiding first to gain an advantage. He quickly took the grenade from the guard and ran to the snake, assuring himself that he wouldn't ask for anything else. The guard was surprised. This scavenger is so poor that he doesn't have a weapon? Is he definitely a scavenger? Luxing threw a grenade at the snake, shouting, "Look here," and immediately got on his motorcycle. The snake, angry, chased after him. He was rushing towards the Chaos Canyon at a rapid pace, surprised that he hadn't had to expend so much energy in battle before. He liked that it was now possible to use grenades almost for free. Luxing realized that after completing the task, he would be able to return to the Institute in peace, since the snake was no longer a threat in the canyon. There, in the Canyon of Chaos, he decided to give the snake a real fight. He threw a lot of grenades, shouting, "Snake, accept a gift set of grenades from me to distract and weaken him." Luxing then used lightning, delivering a lightning-fast electric shock. He noted that the method was very effective, but was amazed by the snake's ability to recover. It's really amazing. When the snake released its venom directly at him, Luxing was shocked. He didn't expect that the snake could release venom. This was even scarier because his old 8-wheeler motorcycle of the second year, which he considered his loyal friend, should have retired long ago. Without losing his presence of mind, he threw himself into the air, and his wings appeared. Fortunately, he had a trump card, the Blue Shadow Falcon Sky Talisman, which could protect his motorcycle and allow him to mine a huge amount of nuclear crystals from such a huge pile. He attacked the serpent several times in a row, delivering piercing blows. The snake fell to the floor, letting out a high-pitched cry. Lu Xing thought that this subtype of Titan python was harder than diamond and recovered quickly. And even so, he was able to gain the upper hand. However, his surprise reached the limit when he saw the sound beast suddenly crying. Suddenly, the giant snake turned into a large woman. Lu Xing was startled. It was a beastman, and it had a mind. He realized that the mission was accomplished with the final blow, but at the same time he realized that he was facing a completely new level of enemy. Now what stood before him was not just a beast, but a sentient being with strength and intelligence. Lu Xing came to the university with a tail, proudly claiming that he had blown up the body of a Titan python and only the tail remained. Zhu thanked him and gave him a reward for the mission, transferring 20,000 sand dollars to Lu Xing. Lu Xing thanked him and thought that the reward for a 2-star mission was much higher than for a 1-star mission, even though the mission itself was much more difficult and he was actually risking his life for money. He asked Xu about the area where the research institute is located, because the presence of nuclear beasts in large numbers is not normal. You replied that it wasn't uncommon for mindless beasts like you to invade private property, and there was no need to worry. He noticed that Lu Xing was tired and offered to stay and rest, while Demei and Xiaomei helped him relax. Lu Xing was surprised to learn that the institute provided this kind of service and asked if it was a trap, since keeping beastmen was illegal. Xu assured that this is a voluntary decision by the beastmen, who are grateful for the institute's protection and want to repay, and hopes that Lu Xing will help maintain security in the future. Lu Xing decided to take the opportunity and offered to arrange for all the beastmen maids to come to him. Xu was surprised but agreed to arrange everything. Lu Xing was delighted and thanked him for it. After the girls came to Lu Xing, they gathered together and declared that they were willing to serve him. Lu Xing noticed that there was no real joy in their words and decided to test their honesty. He released a lightning bolt that reminded them of his power and made them show respect. Meanwhile, Zhu opened the doors of his laboratory, where numerous female beastmen were swimming in large jars. He approached the center and said that the delay was due to a nuclear beast that almost caused trouble. Now, after destroying it, Xu was going to revive his daughter. Lu Xing immediately realized that it was because of the nuclear beast that Xu had intervened here. Once in the office, he attacked him and demanded an explanation, having learned about the dark affairs of the institute. Xu confessed that he had tried to help Lu Xing and convince him to join him, but now he decided to reveal everything. He activated the boosters, and the beastmen under the biotechnological collars appeared in the room. Lu Xing immediately released them, stating that they were now under his control. Xu explained that he once wanted to help beastmen, studied genetics, and tried to turn them into humans. But because of a failed experiment and a tragedy with his family, his research turned into a tool to save his daughter. He started using beastmen to create the substances needed to treat her, and gradually became someone he had previously despised. In the end, he found a way to save his daughter through gene fusion, but a giant python appeared in his way, destroying the plan. Lu Xing intervened, stopping the dangerous fusion, saving the beastmen and other experiment participants. The white and green snakes that had previously met Dr. Xu were the key to keeping her daughter alive. With the help of lightning, Lu Xing provided electricity for gene fusion, despite limited resources and the threat to life. Later, Fang Xiaoyu noticed the little girl left behind from the experiment, and Lu Xing explained that thanks to the efforts of the White Python Titan, the fusion was completed. The girl, a product of the snake-human fusion, was given the name Xiaobao and was accepted into the team, where she was assigned responsibility for household chores. The firecrow begged the chief to let it go, but Lu Xing was calmly testing the arrow, and after evaluating the result, he was satisfied. This time, everything turned out much better. A lot of good things appeared. The crow, barely breathing, complained that she had endured 5 consecutive breaths in one breath and could no longer continue. Lu Xing only coldly remarked that she should take a good rest, while he announced that he would be collecting the lands soaked in evil energy. He ordered Luli and Manchu to be brought along and reminded them to be careful on the way. When they left the gloomy place, Luli breathed in the fresh air with relief. It seemed to her that this fragrance was worth even 1,000 years of waiting. Mancha quipped that it was a wonder her sense of smell hadn't atrophied in so long, and asked what was so pleasant about the stench of a corpse. Luli replied irritably that it was impossible to talk to her normally, and complained that she was only spoiling the mood. Lu Xing interrupted their argument by ordering them to quickly gather up the land imbued with the energy of evil and return immediately. because danger lurks on all sides. Looking around the area, Manhwa noted with regret that the ground here was bad. The corpses had long dried up, and only what had long absorbed misfortune and resentment could really be called truly evil. At that moment, she smelled someone's scent and became alert. Luli immediately told everyone to hide when she noticed someone approaching. Soon, a huge and terrifying woman appeared in front of them. The creature, looking around, was surprised that it could clearly smell a living person, but could not see anyone. When she couldn't find anyone, she decided to look around elsewhere. And as she flew away, she muttered irritably that she shouldn't waste time, because if she didn't find a new student before dark, she might be the next one to be turned into a lead cauldron. Luxing recognized her as a Taoist nun who was once again looking for new disciples for the Ascension sect head. Fortunately, the Brocade Demon Cat's invisibility spell allowed them to avoid a direct collision. Her appearance reminded him where to find the truly evil soil. Meanwhile, a nun elsewhere instructed the trapped people to accept the teaching, avoid entering the cycle of rebirth, wash their souls, harden their bodies, and strive for ascension and bliss. Manhwa whispered that they seemed to have trapped themselves, mingling with the captives they were about to make new apprentices. Luli tried to calm her down, saying that the most dangerous place was often the safest, and asked the head for confirmation. Luing turned into a cat and confirmed that he had a plan, and they only needed to help him carry it out. The nun locked the door and told the students to rest for a while and wait for the head to summon them. Manhwa asked to be allowed to go with him, and Luli asked him to be careful since he was going to act alone. Luxing, in the form of a cat, replied that he knew this place well and they would only get in the way. He ordered them to act as soon as they received the signal. Moving through the corridors, Luxing felt that the space here was cursed. The longer you were inside, the more distorted you felt. According to the memories of the previous owner of the body, the right place was at the end of the corridor. Suddenly, he felt a sudden sense of oppression. At the same time, the nun felt the presence of living people again and wondered why she couldn't find them. Luxing hurried to hide, realizing that the Brocade Demon Cat invisibility spell required a huge expenditure of spiritual energy and couldn't be used continuously. Turning into a demonic cat is cheaper, but its cultivation level is still insufficient, so you need to take care of every second. At this time, the sect leader recited the formulas of the 9 cycles of reversion secret skill, mentioned the void destruction pill, the path of heaven and earth unification, and the upcoming ascension. Finally, Luxing reached the right spot. A huge woman urged the children to enter quickly, assuring them that after ascension, their suffering would disappear. However, Luxing knew the truth. This place was called the Hall of Becoming Celestials of the Ascension sect, but it was actually the place where immortality pills were made. The ground in this hall was most saturated with resentment, despair, and scorched qi. Before his eyes was a furnace for the blood sacrifice of human souls. And now he was finally convinced that the whole teaching of ascension was just a cover for a monstrous ritual. Luxing, who was next to the furnace, felt an ominous flame that strangely combined fire and ice. The temperature inside seemed extremely low, but the body felt like it was being burned with a hot iron. He knew that if he stayed here any longer, he would be completely exhausted. Fortunately, he had already collected enough land with the evil energy. Suddenly, his body began to rise up. He didn't immediately understand why he had taken off, since the furnace, as he knew, was only supposed to affect human souls. The realization came quickly. His spiritual energy was no longer enough to maintain the form of the Brocade Demon Cat. His body began to return to its original form, and at that moment, he felt the most powerful force of absorption. If things continue like this, the human soul blood sacrifice furnace will just recycle him like the rest. While he was desperately trying to think of a way out, a spirit suddenly flew up to him. Luxing was surprised to be able to see souls at all, and realized that this was probably one of the abilities of the Brocade Demon Cat. He asked why the furnace hadn't reworked the stranger's soul and who he was. The spirit introduced itself to Xiaozi and quietly warned him not to make any noise, since the sect master is currently reclusive, but his soul is able to see everything that happens in the Ascension sect. Xiaozi explained that she was different from the other souls. She was the soul of the furnace itself. She used to belong to the first celestial immortal pill-making sect, the Pill Treasure sect. Her treasure was a furnace for processing evil spirits, capable of refining demons and monsters, turning them into elixirs. These elixirs could greatly speed up cultivation or bestow various magical powers. However, after the heavenly calamity and the invasion of evil forces, her sect fell, and she herself ended up in the hands of a villain. Stoichton chained her with a soul-binding needle and turned the furnace into a tool for the blood sacrifice of human souls. He forced her to use human blood to create the evil pill. Since then, she lost her freedom and was forced to participate in unscrupulous acts. Now that her master was shut up, she could secretly move around as a spirit and asked Liu Xing to help her get rid of the needle so that she could regain her freedom. In return, she promised to become his spirit and fulfill any requests, as long as they did not contradict the path of truth. Liu Xing interrupted her, not wanting to discuss the reward, and asked if he understood correctly that the spoke was the same pole behind him. Xiaozi confirmed that the pillar in the center of the furnace was the spoke that bound the soul, and only removing it would truly break the shackles. He admitted that he already had no choice. If he didn't help her, he would die himself. However, he honestly added that now he does not even have the strength to free himself, let alone destroy the spoke. Xiaozi promised to help, but warned that she couldn't let him go yet, otherwise the needle would pull him back in. Liu Ying then decided to act. He used the Tianjin release fire sword, then the mantra whip, and began to strike at the pillar inside the furnace. The blows were heavy, and the energy was rapidly draining away. Xiaozi was worried about his condition and offered to rest, but he knew that there was no time. I had to use a new pill created by the Fire Crow. He regretted that he had wanted to save the props, but now he realized that if he got such a furnace, it would be a good deal. He swallowed the amber power accumulation pill. Her body instantly became hot, and Xiaozi wondered why it was giving off such heat. Liu Xing explained that this is the effect of the pill, and everything will soon stabilize. With renewed strength, he unleashed a series of punches and finally broke the pillar. The shackles disappeared, and Xiaozi regained her human form. She thanked him and announced that she would henceforth be his tripod oven. The words sounded strange, but Liu Xing only thought that he had come here for a handful of earth with evil energy and ended up getting a tripod to refine evil spirits. Now the source of such land will be inexhaustible for him. The nun standing in the hall of the blood furnace narrowed her eyes and smiled coldly. Her voice was acid and mocking as she asked why the thief's face looked so familiar. Liu Xing immediately felt a chill run down his spine. Inside, he realized with alarm that they had made too much noise and attracted the attention of a real monster, a Taoist from the Brain Lovers lineage. According to the memories of the previous owner of the body, this bloodline developed its supernatural abilities by devouring people's bone marrow. Their blood and mysterious technique propping up the Dharma heavens allowed them to transform into giant monsters. To low-level cultivators, they were like a natural disaster, ants in front of a boot. Liu Xing realized that he only had one chance, to kill her with a sudden strike before she revealed her true form. The nun, meanwhile, remembered. She said coldly that she had thrown him away once, thinking him dead. Then her mouth opened wider than usual, almost unnaturally. Inside, she thought, he's still alive, and she doesn't know how he managed it. He managed to steal the blood sacrifice furnace, but his aura isn't the same as before. Its cultivation level is clearly low. Then why does it feel like something valuable? Was he carrying a precious instrument? Aloud, she demanded to know how he'd gotten in here and managed to pull out the soul-binding needle if he was dead. Liu Xing pretended to be scared. He handed her the item and told her that he was relying on this particular item. Begging, he called her a divine virgin and asked her to spare his life. The nun held out her hand in interest, determined to take a look. She said that if she was satisfied with the discovery, she would agree to spare him. And at the very moment when her attention was fully focused on the subject, Liu Xing put the last of his spiritual power into his fist and struck out. The impact was so crushing that her body flew away, and her head was separated from her neck. A strange golden fragment fell to the ground. Liu Xing asked in surprise what it was. Xiaozi explained that this is the core of the brain lover, the golden bone that contains all of the creature's cultivation. Incredible value. Liu Ying realized that he had received the treasure almost for nothing, but he didn't know how to use it. Xiaozi asked me to give it to her. After a moment's hesitation, he agreed. He thought that the power accumulation pill's effect was over, but not only did he get the evil land, but he also got an unexpected trophy. Don't be greedy. He turned back into a cat. The spiritual energy had recovered a bit, and it was much more convenient to move around in the cat form. I had to get back to Luli and Manhwa as soon as possible, but the severed head didn't die. Turning into a fly, she hissed angrily that he had stolen her most precious thing. She urgently needs to find a new body, otherwise the end is inevitable. Meanwhile, Mancha was irritated, wondering how anyone could sleep in a place where they could die at any moment. It bothered her that the head still hadn't returned. Suddenly, she noticed a fly and muttered angrily where it had come from. A fly flew up to the sleeping Luli's face and whispered that she looked beautiful. Mancha hit the fly, knocking it off her friend's face. Luli woke up displeased, saying that she had slept so well. At that moment, the ground trembled. Mancha decided that perhaps the head was in trouble and the fight had already begun. Luli noticed that Mancha was acting strangely, but she told her to calm down, otherwise they would be found out. At this moment, Lu Xing returned in the form of a cat and reported that the land was at his disposal. He urgently needed to leave for the exit. But a voice came from above. The huge man idly inquired about the commotion and noted that there were new younger sisters here. He introduced himself as Taoist Bao Su and said that the head was in seclusion, but he could keep them company and exchange experiences in his chambers. Luli smiled sweetly, hinting that it would be bad if the head found out about their experience exchange, and suggested that he think of a way to bring them out unnoticed. Inside, she decided to wait for him to bite, then kill him. Baozu flattered, agreed. But Mancha didn't play. She jumped and kicked him. He collapsed to the floor. Luli reproached her for being hasty, but Mancha was annoyed by talking. She preferred to act. They shared the magic weapons left behind by the head. Mancha took a huge elixir grenade. Luli chose arrows. Baozu suddenly revealed his true form. Many arms grew out of his head. He realized that he had almost been deceived. The chase began. Mancha decided to fight him, sending Luli away. Luli, though grumbling, left. Mancha swallowed the elixir. There was an explosion inside. She coughed. At that moment, her consciousness separated from her body. The fly nun was delighted. Mancha's subconscious mind was weakened, and it was possible to take over the body. But in the back of Mancha's mind, there was another powerful consciousness. Mancha, in spirit form, hit the nun and destroyed her. She felt a strange sensation as she tore apart the ants and thought that she couldn't wait to get this body under control. Meanwhile, Baozu, who thought he had swallowed it, suddenly felt his body being torn apart from the inside. Mancha stepped outside, stretching her shoulders as hundreds of years of imprisonment ended. It was fragile. She felt his Tao. The severed hand with the eye began to move on its own. Lu Ying recognized her as a cat. It was the left hand of Tao Bao Zhu. In parallel, Luli wandered along the corridor. The space seemed endless. A cultivator appeared, declaring that she wouldn't leave. She suspected a ghost wall and fired. His head was pierced, but he regenerated. It was a master of illusions. He stabbed her in the stomach, but it was an illusion, the light stream phantom technique. Taoist Teishu recognized her skill. He offered to join the Exalted Ones. Luli refused. Then he attacked in earnest. She revealed the secret. The blood of a true dragon dispelled his illusions. When he touched her blood, his phantoms collapsed. It destroyed his head. A fragment of it remained, a piece of the dragon's stone tail. Suddenly, there was a terrible sound, the signal of the patriarch's exit from seclusion. Thousands of souls trembled. Xiaozi explained to Lu Xing that the patriarch had become stronger. His aura was overwhelming in itself. To save the day, Xiaozi suggested dual cultivation in the space of his divine consciousness. There she used the golden tail spike to temper the golden lotus, the foundation of his path. He had broken through the qi tempering stage. She gave him the accumulated power of souls. The patriarch appeared as a gigantic being controlling thousands of souls. Luli and Mancha fought with all their might. Lu Xing intervened. His blow shattered the creature's shell. The patriarch disappeared, promising that their lives were already entangled in his tentacles of karma. Mancha noted that the chapter has reached the stage of foundation formation. Luli realized that he wasn't fainting, but cultivating. They returned to the well, sealing the entrance with bodies and spells. In the sect, they were met with chaos. The Fire Crow stole the spirit stones and opened the secret pavilion of 1 breath 3 autumns, where the day is equal to 3. The Flying Girl, a formation spirit, blamed her. The crow was making excuses. Lu Ying didn't bother to investigate. He returned the stones, distributed tasks, summoning students, creating artifacts, sprouting lazy Shao seeds. He himself entered the pavilion. Cosmic energy filled the body with ease. With double cultivation, he would soon be able to reach the Golden Core stage. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the Taoist handed the Red Calamity Centipede to the hand that reported defeat. It will help to recreate the flesh for 1 night. If you catch 3 traitors and bring them back, the spell will be fixed. The hand obediently obeyed. The hunt began again. After a while, a young man appeared in the sky above the city on a flying machine. A second-hand Falcon jetpack roared behind him, leaving a bright trail. He was proud to think that a speed of 1,200 kilometers per hour was the limit of his dreams, even if the device had cost him 20,000 pension coins. But now he's the brightest guy in the sky, and it's definitely worth the money. Suddenly, Liu Xing flew by his side, completely silent. The guy stared at the strange model aircraft in a daze. It's the fastest speed he's ever seen, especially with this design. No exhaust, no fire, no engine noise. He decided to catch up with the stranger and made the most of it. However, despite the jetpack's extreme speed, the distance didn't shorten. It didn't seem logical. That device didn't even have an exhaust. The young man added even more traction. Meanwhile, Liu Xing was quietly thinking. He had already broken through to the extreme stage of the Golden Core and could fly a sword. Why spend money on transportation now? But even more amazing was his own divine destiny body. Does the source of this power lie in the very space of divine consciousness? Fortunately, he is also the soul of transmigration. This has many advantages. However, there was no time to think. I had to get busy. They both landed at the gathering bar. As he took off his backpack, he decided smugly that he was still faster. The girls at the entrance greeted them and explained the rules. Gatherers of the lower rank take orders at the counter on the first floor, and gatherers of the A to S rank will find a VIP lounge on the second floor, where the service is separate. He noted to himself that he had already risen to 211th place at the top of C rank. Another year, and he'll make it to A without any problems. In a year's time, Luo Leqian will only take tasks from the first floor. Liu Xing, meanwhile, went to the bar and asked Brother Hua for a stronger black beer in a hunting kit. Hua was delighted to see him. He said that he hadn't seen Xingzi for a long time and asked if he had come to take the assignment. He praised it, noting that it was wasteful to spend such strength here. Liu Xing admitted that he was lucky. He had defeated 5 beastmen alone and had completed a 2-star quest above the level. However, he reminded that he is only a middle-class C class, occupies the 360th place, and money is sorely lacking. Luo Leqian, who was eavesdropping, was surprised. Single-handedly destroying 5 beastmen and completing a higher-level mission. How can a normal C-class do that? Either he has a hidden superpower or an incredible piece of equipment. He recalled that they gave a lot for 1-star quest 5,000 sand coins. Liu Xing complained that he only got 30% because of the captain. He wanted to try a 3-star quest and asked for advice. Inside, Liu Xing knew that money wasn't the main thing. He needs to defeat stronger beastmen as quickly as possible and collect core crystals. Elder Eyeless will find them sooner or later. The students haven't recovered from the disaster yet. You need to accumulate enough crystals to temper more artifacts and tools. Hana shook his head and noticed that 30% was Captain Fang Xiaoyu's greed. For a C-class, taking 3-star quests alone is too dangerous. Luo Leqian understood who he was talking about. Fang Xiaoyu, the captain of the Twin Leopards team. Then he offered to unite. His Wasteland Lions squad is the first C-class team, ranked 211, and he is Luo Leqian. Liu Xing thought that there were about 190 people in the lines of the Wasteland, and it was strange that their representative wanted to team up with him and his pair. But aloud, he modestly introduced himself as an ordinary collector of the lower C-class. Luo Leqian assured him that he had heard about his exploits and was impressed. He offered to lead the team and take a 3-star mission together. Hana chimed in. For a 3-star quest, a C-class needs at least 3. At this moment, a soft female voice rang out, asking if there was still a place in the team. The boys turned around. Luo Leqian thought, what a cute girl. She introduced herself as Lino, a C-class picker from the Night Cherry Blossom squad, and asked if she could join them. Luo Leqian immediately agreed, greeting her cordially. Liu Xing announced that the team was assembled and asked Brother Hua to pick up a task. Hana sighed, promising to choose something simpler. But Liu Xing asked if there was a more difficult task, to get more beastmen and a boss to boot. Hua grumbled that he had a suicidal streak like his captain, but admitted that there was one difficult 3-star mission that had been suspended for 24 hours. At Xingchen Elementary School, an entire class disappeared during class at the forest. Not just a few students, but the entire class, along with a chaperone. The task is shrouded in uncertainty. The forest used to be considered peaceful, but there have been rumors of ghosts in recent months. However, most likely, beastmen settled there. Liu Xing didn't hesitate to say that they were taking this task. A team had been formed, and the unknown of Xingchen Forest was waiting for them ahead. The system confirmed the mission. Level C gatherers Liu Xin, Luo Letian, and Lin Yu formed a team for the 3-star mission. Luo Letian immediately warned that the mission was very dangerous, and especially for a girl, so you need to proceed carefully. Liu Xing reassured him that there would be no danger as long as he was around, and Brother Hua assured him that there were definitely no ghosts here. Liu Xing thought that if the ghosts did appear, his greatsword would be able to deal with them. It would be a real test of strength for him. Hua explained the situation in detail. The children had disappeared in the last 24 hours, and it was highly likely that something had happened to them. There is very little time left, only 12 hours to rescue. He outlined 3 possible routes. The first is fast, but extremely dangerous. Cross the eternal sandy abyss in devouring sea, full of deadly traps. The second is through Hausa Canyon and the ruins of animal bones, where looters and nuclear beasts are waiting for them. The third is a safer circumnavigation of the outer ring of the desert, but it will take more than 10 hours and delay them greatly. Lin Yu thought about it and suggested her own option, unusual and risky. After a while, she held an ice shrimp in her hands and called out with a smile, "Xiaolan, I'll bring you your favorite ice shrimp. Hurry up here." At that moment, a huge whale appeared out of nothing. Liu Xing, surprised, shouted. Lin Yu explained that judging from the size, it's only a baby star whale. Lu Hing was delighted. He knew that it was one of the fastest floating nuclear beasts. Luo Letian thought about the incredible price of such a creature and wondered where the girl's resources came from. He suggested that she might be the legendary rich woman that was being rumored. Lin Yu explained that the whale is her friend, but it can only move at an altitude of more than 1,000 meters. Otherwise, it will not be able to breathe. Therefore, they will have to take off on it if they want to use this unusual means of transportation. Luo Letian noted that sitting on the back of a giant beast is surprisingly comfortable. You can hardly feel the weight, and Lin Yu added that the whale's speed is low, but it can shorten the path and overcome difficult areas faster. Liu Xing, sensing an unusual energy field nearby, thought that this was a favorite space or something more. There was an immortal cleansing domain nearby, as if nature itself protected their presence. They had arrived at the Forest of Nothingness. Liu Xing noticed that the place was almost empty, with almost no nuclear creatures appearing here, even though the forest was usually used for outdoor activities and scientific research. Lin Yu noticed a strange atmosphere, both calm and terrifying, reminiscent of an old legend. The girl told the story of the Forest of Wonders. Once this place was rich in resources, many people settled here, creating a settlement. All was quiet until one night, when most people were killed or hung from trees as a frightening warning. The rescue team tried to help the survivors, but most died. The rest miraculously survived, and seeds between the races became rare. The worst part is that a ghost watched the massacre, but only a small child saw it. Luo Letian wasn't sure if ghosts really existed in this world, but Lin Yu explained that the girl had experienced the horror herself, and her story was accurate. Huanyan Witch Girl, a spiritual seer who can see ghosts. Liu Xing pointed out that if the ghosts really existed, they would be easy to deal with his big sword. Luo Letian hurriedly directed the team toward the school, but suddenly strange roots began to grow from the building, enveloping them. Liu Xing turned on the flashlight and walked through the dark school. After the door closed, it became completely dark inside. He and the guys ran in different directions, and the communication bracelet stopped working. He knew that now he was alone, and he needed to find the others as soon as possible. He went into one of the rooms and shone his flashlight ahead, asking if anyone was there. There were only mannequins inside. Even so, he could clearly hear a strange sound and couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He decided not to linger and continue his search. Suddenly, he felt a hand reach out behind him. Liu Xing abruptly grabbed her and shone the flashlight on her, revealing a small girl. She asked me to take her home. Liu Xing checked the bracelet. It didn't show that it was a nuclear beast, and he couldn't sense the ghost aura from it. He asked her name and how she got here. The girl said that during the lesson, a ghost appeared. Chaos began. She got scared, ran, and got lost. The rest of the students were driven deeper into the school by the ghost. Meanwhile, Luo Letian was trying to radio Liu Xing and Lin Yu. There was no response. Suddenly, he heard strange music like singing. He followed the sound, and at that moment, someone grabbed his arm. In the room, he saw many children surrounding Ling Yu. He called out to her, but the children suddenly changed. Their bodies became unnatural, like monsters. Luo Letian took out a knife and killed them all. He ran over to Lin Yu and tried to bring her back to consciousness. She woke up and didn't know how she got there. He said that she probably encountered a ghost, but it was all over now. He had defeated it and would protect her. Lin Yu replied that she was happy to have such a brother and asked him not to leave her. He promised to be there. At that moment, her body began to distort, turning into a monster. She said that it was very good, and black tentacles began to come out of her body, which entangled Luo Letian. The real Ling Yu was wandering around the school by herself at this time. She had lost both Lu Xing and Luo Letian. The bracelet was not working, and it was impossible to contact the captain. She heard footsteps. Lu Xing appeared in front of her and said that he had finally found her. She became alert and asked who he really was, because another Lu Xing appeared behind her. There were two identical Lu Xins standing in the corridor. Each accused the other of being an imposter. They began to fight, claiming that the other was the ghost. Both offered Lin Yu to stand up for them, promising protection. Then both of them started turning into monsters, still insisting that they were real. Lin Yu used her ability. Since childhood, she has developed the gift of hearing the thoughts of nuclear monsters and communicating with them. She tried to understand their inner voice, but their minds were strange, not like the nuclear creatures. She said she could hear their mental communication, but couldn't figure out who they were. The monsters claimed to be her teammates. She called out to Xiaoyu. The little pig named Xiaoyu transformed into a huge boar and attacked both monsters, slamming them against the wall. However, they managed to escape. At this time, the girl led Liu Xing to a huge black hole that was shrouded in something dark. She asked him to save the others as soon as possible. At that moment, Liu Xing took out his sword and chopped her head off. The girl was a monster. He realized that she wasn't a nuclear beast or a ghost, nor was she human. She didn't give off any aura. He realized that her purpose was to bring him here. Liu Xing used his ability to transform into a spiritual form and then entered the black hole. Inside, he realized that it was probably the body of a real monster. There were not only children there, but also a few familiar faces. A monster attacked him from behind, and a fight ensued. During the fight, he released Luo Latian. He came to and didn't know where he was. Liu Xing explained in spirit form that it was necessary to destroy the creature's innards and save the disciples, while he himself had to find the monster's real body. Luo Letian was shocked and asked if it was a ghost. Liu Xing told him not to panic. This is his special ability. Luo Letian realized that Liu Xing had awakened superpowers, whereas he and Lin Yu hadn't yet, and it was normal for a C-class collector to do so. At this moment, a huge monster appeared in front of them. Liu Xing realized that this creature could copy those it had seen in its lifetime, as well as images from its own memory. Lin Yu suddenly appeared riding Xiaoyu, who was in the form of a huge boar named Durian. Luo Letian was surprised to see her like this. Lin Yu said that Xiaoyu was her friend, and they joined the fight. After school, a human-like creature appeared in front of them. It calmly announced that all the top dressing was already collected, and you can start. At the same time, the building began to shrink. Luo Letian felt the walls move. Ling Yu didn't understand what was going on, and Liu Xing realized that the building itself might be part of the monster's true body. The creature began to say that it spent hundreds of years of its life to grow a giant nuclear tree. It took decades to sprout alone, and every few decades the tree needed to absorb people to replenish its nutrients. This time it absorbed not only the life force of the children, but also the blood of a rank sea scavenger. It added that they were sure to be delicious. It takes centuries to germinate and grow, but it only takes a day for a nuclear tree to ripen its fruit. However, after the offering, the tree loses some of its energy, and there is always a price. Suddenly, one of the fruits burst. The creature didn't understand how this was possible or where the energy from the fruit had gone. At that moment, Lin Yu, Luo Letian, and Liu Xing appeared along with the rescued children. The creature realized that the C-rank scavenger was able to escape from the control of the nuclear tree. Then the monster tore open the space, creating a hole. Liu Xing saw a huge hand appear from the rift and try to hit them. He threw the sphere with the children to Xiao Lu and ordered her to lead them as far away as possible and not look back. The creature began to create more and more spatial rifts. Liu Xing transformed into a spirit form and cut the monster in half, but it quickly regenerated. The creature claimed that even an A-rank scavenger was unlikely to be a match for it, but Liu Xing managed to injure it, and it was unexpected. It demanded to know its name and attacked again with a huge hand, but Liu Xing parried the blow. A series of powerful attacks began. Liu Xing knew that the opponent was extremely strong. He had already sent a distress signal to the captain, but even at her speed, It would take more than 2 hours to get there. He didn't know how long he would last. He still had 2 talismans left, so he decided to use one. After activating the talisman, a battlesuit appeared on him. The creature was surprised that he was also transforming and offered to continue the game. It rained down a hail of blows with its huge hands. Lu Xing dodged and attacked. The monster noted his speed and created its own blade. A blade fight ensued. Lu Xing sliced the creature into 2 pieces with lightning speed. The monster was surprised that its metal form wasn't any stronger. Lu Xing understood that the talisman's effect was limited. It would last until it completely burned out. It was necessary to finish quickly. He threw a few more punches. The creature admitted that it had underestimated its strength, but assumed that its power had just suddenly increased. Lu Xing was aware that the opponent's abilities were too dangerous. It would tear apart space, change the body structure, and regenerate. The usual way is not to kill it. You need to destroy it completely. The monster decided that if it couldn't win alone, it would create more copies. A huge number of his doppelgangers appeared around him. Lu Xing froze for a moment, but then the golden horse appeared along with its spears, and a fierce battle ensued. The creature was surprised that he too could create clones. Lu Xing continued to strike, but he felt that the talisman was almost exhausted. Soon its effect ended, and it returned to its normal form. He hoped that he had finally destroyed the enemy. At this moment, a new spatial rift opened up under his feet. The ground disappeared, and Lu Xing fell down. Lu Xing found himself in a separate space with the creature. Everything was quiet. The creature claimed that everything was finally quiet. It had originally planned to just harvest the fruits of the nuclear tree, but it didn't expect to encounter such a troublesome person. At the same time, it admitted that it likes such surprises and decided to check out what it is. It raised its hand to Lu Xing's head and scanned his memories. At first, I saw that he was an ordinary garbage collector. In the first half of his life, he was an orphan, nothing special. But then it found memories that didn't belong in this world. The creature was surprised, not understanding what kind of joke this was. Furthermore, it sensed that there was a powerful energy hidden in Lu Xing's body, clearly not related to ordinary people. Such an opponent interested him. However, it did think that if it was allowed to grow further, it might become a major obstacle to their plan to return. The creature hesitated whether to kill it or not, and noted that the arm didn't seem to be raised. It was too rare a specimen. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the space. The barrier broke, and Captain Lu Xing rushed in. The creature realized that she had broken through its spatial barrier with just a single sound wave. The captain immediately found the target and charged, knowing that this was the one in front of her. The captain's kick knocked the creature away, and it released Lu Xing. The captain scooped him up and checked his condition. Lu Xing woke up, was surprised by her appearance, and said that he was fine. He was resilient, but he was still too weak and couldn't destroy that immortal monster. The captain asked if it was self-healing. The creature began to regenerate, and the giant tree began to retreat. The captain demanded to stop, and he and Lu Xing attacked the tree. At that moment, one of the seeds fell to the ground. Luo Letian, Xiao Liu, and Ling Yu walked up to them. Lu Xing said that he was fine and asked about the children. Lin Yu reported that the children were still alive, just unconscious, and the scavengers who arrived had already evacuated them to the base. Luo Letian asked where this huge plant came from. Lu Xing explained that it was the shoot of a giant nuclear tree that kidnapped people for its fruit. The captain said that if it was all his doing, we should destroy it completely. But at this moment, the fruits flew into the spatial crack. The creature almost fell under a surprise attack and managed to escape. On the other side of the rift, a red creature appeared and addressed him by the name of Gui Yu. Asking why it took so long, Gui Yu called him boss. He asked if the operation went smoothly and if it bore the fruit of the nuclear tree. Gui Yu replied that he was only able to deliver 7 because he had encountered 2 very problematic scavengers. The boss pointed out that right now, only Gui Yu's ability allowed him to move from the sealed land back to the wasteland, so he needed to recruit more followers to speed up the return plan. The fruits helped restore some of his strength, but this is disastrously small. He stated that he would definitely find a way to restore his cultivation and lead everyone out of the sealed land back to the wasteland. A short time later, a secret meeting was held at the Scavenger Guild's headquarters. Mingyu noted that such meetings had not been held for a long time and called them together because of the critical situation, but less than half of them showed up. Hughes said that the gathering was announced too suddenly. Everyone is busy saving the world. Uncle Long faked it by hinting at dating. Hugh's excuse was that he was looking for a subscription to boost his energy. Mingyu stopped the argument and reported an important piece of news. He feels that An Ying and his generals will soon break the blockade of the sealed land. Lin Feng said that he wasn't strong enough in the previous battle, but he had prepared for years, and this time he would destroy the enemy completely. Hughes asked if An Ying was that strong. Chen Min replied that even if everyone present united, An Ying would easily destroy them. Mingyu acknowledged that the chances were there, but extremely small, and thought of Liu Xing as a possible key to victory. Later in the guild's apartment, Director Guo thanked them for their escape. Liu Xing said that he was the one who should thank her for constantly checking on Xiaobao and asked what kind of plant it was. The director admitted that she herself does not fully understand. For the first time, she sees such a mutation, and it seems that the plant has gained consciousness. Zhou Bao explained that the nuclear tree is the equivalent of a nuclear beast among plants. Mutation begins at the seed stage, but the transformation lasts for hundreds of years. To grow one such tree, you need to sacrifice an entire forest as fertilizer. When it bears fruit, all the energy passes into the fruit for accelerated maturation, and the final form of evolution is hidden inside. Lu Xing doubted her words, but Director Guo noticed that the explanation was surprisingly consistent with her hypotheses. Xiaobao said that the knowledge appeared in her head as if it were her father's memories. At that moment, the fruit began to glow brightly. Lu Xing realized that it was about to mature.